When you use Playwright for your end-to-end testing or synthetic monitoring, there are, as always, multiple ways to do things. For example, if you want to check if an element is visible, you could use the method isVisible, or you could rely on the ToBe assertion. Which one should you use? I have a quick example page here that includes this button that when I click it tells me that this was nice. And this page, when I reload it, will not include this button initially. Then there will be this button, but it will be disabled. And only at last it will be enabled and clickable. Let's look at the different ways to check this button's state. Here we have a quick Playwright test that navigates here to localhost 8080. It locates the button using a CSS selector. And then we use here button is visible, which returns Boolean. And then we expect this is visible variable to be true. When we now run this test case, we will discover that this one won't work because is visible seems to be false. So what's going on? Whenever you use an is method in Playwright, Playwright will reach into the DOM and will look for this element and not wait for anything. So if in this case there is no button, it will return false immediately. And if there's a button that is not visible, it will also be false. So there won't be any auto waiting in place. And if you now say that, hey, isVisible has a timeout option, right? You see that this one is deprecated by now and it is doing nothing at all. So isVisible is the wrong tool here for the job. But what if we look at another is method that provides a timeout option? What will that one do? When we rerun the test and want to check if this button is enabled, we will still have a failing test case here. And you might now say, all right, this button will become enabled after roughly 2 seconds. So let's give it a timeout option of 5 seconds. But when we now rerun the test, it will still be failing because timeout will only wait for this locator to match an element. It will not wait for this button to be enabled. And that's why I usually don't use is methods. Let's look at a better approach. The second test case here uses a different locator. It uses getByRole, checks for a button and checks for the text. And getByRole will only match visible elements in the first place, so that we don't need to check for visibility. And the ToBe enabled assertion will wait for this button to be enabled. And that's usually what you want to test, isn't it? So generally, you want to use web-first assertions that start with ToBe because these will wait for an element's state. Let it be visible, enabled, disabled. There are assertions for all these elements' states. And if you want to inspect all this magic, you can always spin up UI mode because there you will find all the waiting and retries for your web-first assertions. And that's all for today. You know where to find more Checkly and Playwright tips and tricks.